The voice, what is it? We use it every day. We've used it most of our lives, but we've never been taught about it unless we go into vocal training or we learn about the ear, nose, and throat department in our science classes, which very few of us do based on the amount of clients I get that have no idea about vocal anatomy. So what is the voice? Well, let's write that down. Voice. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's get to the fundamentals and the foundations of what it is. Voice coming from the origin vox, meaning of the voice. So the voice is made up of three systems. We have the respiratory system, which you will have learnt about in regards to our breath. This is the foundation of the voice. Without breath, we cannot make sound. Without breath, we cannot survive. So when we breathe in, we are breathing in the inhalation of inspiration, we are breathing in the thought, and we are then releasing it. And we release that by creating sound in the vocal cords, which are placed right here in the larynx. And that is part of the phonatory system, also known as the resonatory system. Resonatory. You'll have heard the word resonance, you'll have heard the word resonant. Does that resonate with you? Resonance is the vibration of sound resonating through the air, through solid objects. So when we create sound, it comes from the breath up through the phonatory system and then out through this part of our body. And this is called the articulatory system. Articulatory system. Those three components of the voice are what we use to create sound. It's how we express ourselves. It's how we go out into the world and tell our message. Yes, a lot of our stories can be told through expression of gesture and body language, but in order to speak, in order to have a voice, you need all of these working in good order. So vocal health is really, really helpful here. So you have to look after this. Now, let's go back to the respiratory system. This is of the breath. This includes the lungs. Obviously, we breathe into our lungs. This includes the diaphragm. If I can spell it, diaphragm. This includes the intercostal muscles in the ribs. This is what causes the ribs to swing out when we take a breath in. When we want to take a deeper breath, we go, that is what allows the ribs to swing out. And also we have the lower abdominals. This is the driver. This is the foundation. This is where we have our power. This is where it all begins. The quality of the breath coming in. Most of the voice training that any actor, any politician, any singer is going to go through will start with breathing. Where are you breathing? How are you breathing? Is it dropping in low? What's going on? So once we have this done, we can then move into the phonatory system. A system also known as the resonatory system. This is our vocal cords, which you can hear right now. Mine have some grog on them. You can hear sometimes in your own voice that they get coated with a mucus or a phlegm. This is from external factors. This could be allergy driven. This can be that you've smoked cigarettes. This could be that you've drank milk, and that causes a coating of the larynx, which can then make you feel like you need to clean your throat. Or you could just be ill. So our vocal cords are what is responsible for the sound that comes out of our mouth, because this is where the air passes through, and then the vocal cords bang together like this. Well, I say bang, they vibrate and they resonate together to make the sound. And if we push too much air out through the vocal cords, this can damage them. A lot of singers and West End performers and Broadway performers have the struggle of growing nodes on their vocal cords. This is where you have overused them and nodes grow, and it can stop you from being able to have a clear sound when you sing and speak. So it is very important that we are connected to the breath when air comes out through the vocal cords. This is why we have to take a lot of time to understand our breath connection, our thought-breath connection, and also what does support mean when it comes to the breath, which I go over in my voice training. So the resonance is also the chest. This is a large open area of our body, and this is responsible for a lot of our resonance. This is why you can wake it up by pummeling the chest and bringing more of the sound and vibration into the chest. That can make the sound come down a bit deeper. Also, another resonator is the head, our big skull, which is quite thick, which means the sound passes through it, because sound travels through solids better than it does through the air. So it vibrates better through this, our head. Resonance also comes through our nasal cavity, which is the area just behind our nose that goes into the back of the skull. Not too far back, just to about here, and this is where our sounds come out for consonants and sounds like notice how it's coming through the nose. We vibrate a lot through our nose. There are people who have very nasal accents, and that's because all of their resonance is coming through their nose. You notice this a lot with Australians and Kiwis, and then you get a lot of Americans as well that can push through the nose. And that can be quite irritating. That can be a choice you make if you want to speak like that, but it can be undone by lifting the soft palate. So from the phonatory resonatory system, once that sound is being resonated within us, once we're vibrating, once the breath is connected, we have to put that sound through our articulators, which is part of the articulation system. So what we have here is the lips, the teeth, the tongue, and the soft palate, which I have spoken about just a moment ago. And not forgetting the jaw. This is how we shape sound into language, going from breath to phonatory to articulation. So we need to warm up our lips. Our lips are responsible for w and b and p. These are called plosive consonants. And then we have our teeth, which are responsible for a more passing of air for the f sound, or the sh or sound, and the zh. Notice how our teeth are zh when we make these sounds. Then we have our tongue, which is responsible for the tip of the tongue, and we have the back of the tongue. So the back of the tongue is responsible for things like like a dark L. Also, it's responsible at the front of the tongue, the tip of the tongue, for light L's, like la 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 and la. Notice how it uses the same consonant, but two different sounds. So our tongue is responsible for a lot of shaping of things as well when it comes to vowel sounds. So we can swallow our tongue and it can cause our clarity of speech and our air passing through to be restricted because of tongue root tension. So the tongue is responsible quite a lot in the mouth, and we don't want it to be doing things that we don't want it to do. So when it sits at the bottom of the mouth for the ah sound, we don't want it to be raised at all, ah, because then it causes blockages. When we make an e sound, e, we want the tongue to be wide. So it is important that we work on our tongue as well. Our soft palate is responsible for that clear sound you hear when people sing, ah. If we have a lowered soft palate when we try and sing or speak, ah, It sounds restricted. It sounds like a goat being strangled. And we don't want to sound like a goat being strangled when we sing or speak, because that's going to put people off and they're probably going to walk out of the auditorium. They're not going to want to listen to you. And then we have the jaw. If our jaw is too tense, we end up speaking like this, and we can't do anything about it, getting the actual words out of the mouth. It's very stiff upper lip. Our jaw tension is like this, and then a lot of people like to overcompensate with their jaw by going hello, like when they speak, and that's not the energy we want to be in as well. So in order for all of these to work in coordination, we need to work on our voice. This is what is important. This is how we're going to calm the nervous system, bring ourselves to the conditions that are optimal for us to be able to make the sale, be calm enough to go on stage in front of 1,000 people and give a speech, be comfortable with oneself just sat down and making a phone call and giving a webinar or speaking in front of the camera, making sure that we're connected to our breath. And there is a common misconception that you need to have a microphone, you don't need to have support when you speak, which is absolute nonsense. Because if you still sing into a microphone without support, it's not going to sound good for the most part. Some people can get away with it when it's in sort of production, but if you're live and you're still going, you end up putting the microphone right in front of your face and not really opening yourself up to the room. You're basically there hiding behind a microphone. Don't hide behind microphones. Let them just be an extra projection of your voice so that Sally, about 20 meters away from you, sat up in the gods or sat up in the audience behind you, can hear you. That's all it is. You still want to have the power and the support that comes from the respiratory system. You still want to have a breath that drops in naturally, that you're not forcing in, that's causing too much air to flow through the vocal cords, so you stumble over your words and you can't get out what you want to say because you haven't taken your time to take the breath in, to have the thought and let that attach to the amount of air you need to get to the end of that sentence. Our lungs, we want to keep them nice and fresh. We don't want to be smoking. We don't want to be doing things that are bad for our lungs. We want to stay away from dusty environments that can cause the lungs to feel like they're going chaotic because of allergies. Our diaphragm, we can train this every day. We can just ha, 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 really ha, ha, ha. Pay more attention to when you're on support, because if you're not, you're going to have no power when it comes to speech. Our intercostal muscles can be also trained, where we do a lot of breathing exercises where we expand our ribs. The lower abdominals, they are going to contract when we get into a end of the breath situation where we still have something to say. That is where the deep down, low support comes from when we really need to dig deep. The phonatory system, the resonance, our vocal cords, we have to look after these. We've only got one pair, and they open up when the air comes in, and then the air flows out when it opens up. So when we speak, they close and vibrate together, which I've gone over already. But we've got to be very careful of looking after them. The chest, we can warm this up. We want to sound more grounded. We want to sound more resonant. Make sure that you're waking up these parts. Make sure that you're massaging into your face. Make sure that all of your body, even your back, when you speak through your back, when you speak to people in front of you, you want to be speaking to the people behind you as well. And if there's nobody there, just imagine it. It will make your voice sound more full, because you'll be resonating out the back and the front and to the side. You're a multi-dimensional being. You are three-dimensional. You can go here, there, there, there. You choose where your voice goes, but you can fill an entire room and your space by imagining that the body is a full resonator. The head, obviously, that works and comes into play when we're... Not all of us are going to be speaking up in the top of our voice, but there are some sounds. We want to be able to come up here when we're telling stories, and we also want to be able to come down here. So you can play around with going from the chest to the very top of the chest, sometimes going into the head. It depends. You know, you might want to sound like a bit more like that when you say something. It just depends what your intention and action is behind the words that you want to say. And then we have the, obviously, with the articulatory system, which I've gone through as well. And this all can be trained. The muscularity, the shaping of the sounds, the types of sounds that we make with these parts of our body. We have a lot of work we can do with the tip of the tongue to make sure that we are really precise with the words that we're saying, really precise with the diction, really have that dexterity around the tongue. So I've probably slipped over quite a lot of words and added little bits here and there and not fully been on the support, but for the most part, I'm feeling as if we need to always be working on the articulatory system, because we can fall off all the time, and it's not going to be the end of the world if we fully fall off and some words slip, or we add a few little things here and there where we forget what we're saying, or it slips just a tiny bit because we're excited like I am making this video. It's not the end of the world. And the jaw, we want to release the tension from there anyway, because if we clench onto things in our jaw, we're probably quite stressed. But going back to the respiratory system, breathing and working on our breathing technique will bring us back down to the present. So with that said, I'm going to focus a little bit on the respiratory system now to help you with getting into presence. Go Nero knowledge style and rub off the board. Okay. My pen's running out. I've only got one. Right, I said I was a voice coach, not a spelling coach. Respiratory system. So breath, the fundamental of all of life, really, from our very first one till the very end. This is the foundation. Now, in recent years, there's been a huge increase in breath work. Just check we're still rolling. There's been a huge increase in breath work. And a lot of breathwork practitioners, whether it's for emotional release or for learning how to free dive, or the Wim Hof method, of course. These are all very, very helpful methods to deal with anxiety, to deal with mental health conditions. Obviously, they help with allowing you to regulate your nervous system, drop in and work through certain things that you're going through with your life. However, all of these require at some point a breath hold. And we don't want to hold our breath when we speak, because when we hold our breath, we're causing unnecessary tension within the body. So a lot of voice training, and the voice training I teach, which was from the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, come down from Elsie Fogarty's drama school into Cicely Berry, who wrote Voice and the Actor, and she is the godmother of voice training. Our voice, the breath that we use for the voice, doesn't use any holds. Holding our breath on stage is like drowning underwater. You might want to hold your breath when you free dive, because if you don't, you're going to drown. But the opposite happens when you're on stage. If you try and hold your breath on stage, you're going to forget your words, you're going to not know what you're saying, you're going to fumble, and you're going to feel like you're drowning. And then you're going to go into a panic and a frenzy on stage because you don't know what to do. So with the breath, the amount of training that we need to do on this is pretty much undoing what we've learnt on how to breathe, because we're taught to breathe wrong for the most part. We all think that breathing in is, we're breathing in and we're sucking in our stomach. And that's because we want to look skinny, or we want to look like we've got abdominals, or we're creating a vacuum. And we don't want other people to think we're fat because of environmental factors or societal factors. So we don't breathe in and we don't allow ourselves to expand into the belly for the most part. So the fundamental breath training that we do is about letting the breath drop in naturally of how the body wants to, and letting this part, wherever there's any tension, to expand so that we have a full breath which is connected when we decide to speak or breathe out. So with that, the breath work that I talk about is about this can be trained. This can be trained. We increase our capacity to breathe. So we take a deeper breath in, which means we can hit better notes, we can hold notes for longer, we can say a sentence for longer, we can really articulate our thoughts from the moment that we think them, take the breath in, and that breath will sustain us to the end of the thought that we want to say, and we can take that up here, we can take that down there, or we can bring it back to center and do it along a little bit there and back up again and back down here, and then we come to the end of the breath like this. That's one breath with a few different thought processes through it. But if you don't have the capacity in the lungs to carry that much air, then we can work on it and we can increase that. And then with the diaphragm, here, just below the ribs, here, this terrible diagram, but that pulls down and we expand. And we want to allow ourselves to get into that part of our body. There's a lot of tension here. This is where all of our vital organs are, apart from the heart, which is protected by the ribs. Most of our organs are within our belly, so our intestines and our stomach and our liver and etc. So we want to really, have you noticed when someone goes into a fight, if someone goes into a fight like this, they're covering up their soft parts. It really takes guts to go up to someone and speak from this part. That's why they say to you, you haven't got the guts to say that to my face. Because if you go and say something to someone's face with your guts, you're going to be showing them your soft parts, which means I'm not afraid for my soft parts to be exposed. That's a body language thing for you right there. But it all comes from being able to be comfortable with breathing into the front of your body like this. And the more you work on this, the easier it's going to be to go and speak to the girl of your dreams that stood over there, or man, whatever you're into, or if this is a woman watching. You can have that freedom within your voice to be able to say what you want. Because when we breathe deep, we are also grounded and rooted into the present moment. We're not worrying about the future. We're not worrying about the past. We're connected to the very present because our breath is in the present. That breath will also help you with any anxiety, any struggles you're going through where you feel like you're not knowing what to say, or you get stage fright or anxious. Being able to calm yourself with breath is going to be your best friend. So making friends with the breath, not tensing it all up, and just allowing it to drop in and flow out. With that, we want the diaphragm and the abdominals and the lungs. I'll do the shoulders and the head. To all be working in coordination with each other. So that when we take our breath in, the exhale is supported. We always want to have a supported breath. For the most part, if I was to ask you to talk about something that you're passionate about, you will probably be supported to your breath. I won't actually have to tell you that you are not supported. If you then have to say something that is something new to you, or you're not too sure about it, or it's new words that have come into your vocabulary, or you're trying to list something off to me that you're not fully convinced about, it's probably not going to be a supported breath or exhale when you speak about it. For some reason, when we're talking about something that we're passionate about, we take more air in to talk about it. We become more excited by it, which means we'll have to take breath in. We let go of all that tension of talking about something that we're not too fully into. So if we do talk about something we're passionate about, we are usually supported subconsciously by it, because it's something we know. It's something we are aware of already, and we're happy to talk about it. It's when it comes to the things that we're not so happy to talk about, or the harder things to say in life, where we're not fully supported to the diaphragm. And that is where we really do need to work on our support when we're trying to do this. You can be your own support system by letting the breath drop in and speaking from here. You don't have to try and go like this when you speak. You don't have to try and lower your voice to sound more masculine. You just have to connect more to this part of the body so that you're not stumbling, so that you're not fumbling, so that you have more assertion when you speak, so that you have gravitas because of the depth of the breath that is being taken in. So we need to keep this supported. And again, what I offer in my voice training allows us to go into vocal support so that you know what that is and you never have to worry about it again. And you can always check in whenever you're in a situation where you feel like you're not supported by taking that breath in and connecting to it. I think that just about covers breath and connection. That said, I do want to talk about thought, breath. Thought breath, or thinking breath. That's where we breathe in and then we start to speak directly after the speech has come in. Sorry, we directly start to speak after the thought has come in. And we can mark the exhalation with a little sound when we do the voice work on the floor. Ha, ha. Because if we let out air before we get to actually speak, this is what usually causes us to do this. I'll make an example of it. And then I've already breathed and exhaled, and now I've not got much air to finish off my sentence, so I don't really know what I'm going to say. This usually happens when we get emotional, because we let out air because we're sighing or we're crying or we're letting out the emotion through the breath rather than connecting it to the voice. But that can also have implications on how we sound. That's why we forget to get to the end of our sentence, because we've run out of air and we can't actually speak if we've got no air. So the thought breath is where we're thinking and speaking in a flow. And we can get that together and aligned by doing the voice training and the breath training dropping in. So we want to take a thought in with an inhalation. Inhalation, inspiration. And we don't want to hold it for too long. If we need to think through a few breaths, then we can. For me, if I am listening and thinking, I will listen and breathe through my nose. If I want to speak, I'll breathe through my mouth. And that is another thing that I wanted to talk about, is mouth breathing. We have been conditioned recently on the internet to not breathe through our mouth because it does something to our jaw, the mewing thing, it changes the shape of our jaw. Great. Well, if you want to breathe through your nose, you can do that for relaxation. You can breathe through your nose for your other breath work. You can breathe through your nose when you're doing a listening breath. If you want to listen, nose breathing is great. It really helps you calm down that nervous system so you are better at listening. And what makes a better listener? When you're in the present moment with what you're listening to. So, breathe through the nose for being present and listening. When we get into speaking, we want to breathe through the mouth. Because if you try and keep going, right, I'm going to speak now, but it's through the nose, it's going to start sounding a bit strange. We don't breathe through our nose when we speak or sing. If you've ever watched a singer try to breathe through their nose and sing, it's not going to work. We have a more convenient breath through the mouth for our speaking voice than we do through the nose. So don't be afraid to breathe through your mouth when you are going to speak. Yes, the internet gurus will tell you not to, but this is okay. Phonetry and resonance. Voice, as we know it, the vibration, the sound, the actual noise we make, is when all of our breath passes through into this system, through the vocal cords. For the most part, I don't have a massive explanation on this because it doesn't need a massive explanation. Our breath is the thoughts and the inhalation and the breathing. It flows through here to get to the other side, which is articulation. So this is our vibes. This is our vibration. This is how we resonate with people. How does that sound? It can sound irritating, it can sound warm, it can sound deep, it can sound shrill. There are many ways in which we can resonate and allow our vibrations to come through our resonating system to get to the other side. So, for the most part, we want to have a clear, deep, rounded sound. If you're a man, you want to feel like you fill a room, you want to feel like you are connected into your body and you're not up here in a squeaky voice, which is fine. This is why we wake up the resonators, and we can do that with various different exercises. As a woman, you want to resonate as well because you want to resonate with your partner, you want to resonate with your audience, you want to resonate, and you can really resonate from here as well. As long as we are connected to our breath, our resonance will be woken up through the sound coming through. The more that we practice the humming and the extended vowels and the So there's a reason why Buddhists and monks and various other religions use the hum or the sound, because that vibration, we're waking up the vibes within ourselves by waking up the resonators. So the resonance that we wake up through the humming is what raises our vibration. It's what activates the vagus nerve, or vagus nerve, depending on how you say it. It's what brings us into a parasympathetic nervous system via the breath. So humming and waking up that resonance is going to give us our space. It's going to give us our presence in the space, on how that voice lands over there, how that voice lands over there, by resonating with the audience. We can add different things to our vibes, the intention behind it, what we're pushing through. And that will bring us into our articulatory system. Articulation. Whether you're speaking Russian or English or Spanish, we all use articulation. Each language has a different way of shaping that sound of our resonance. This is how we shape the story. This is what we turn into speech. This is where we add the quality of sound from the resonance. And we really feel into the language, really feel into the articulation, shaping it, making it part of the story. We can be big with it, we can be rather small with it as well. Articulation is how we articulate our breath, our thoughts, into the outer world. We have the inner world, we have the inner voice, and through articulation and bringing it into the external, we are able to share these stories and these thoughts and these ideas by shaping it into the languages that we have created through the years. And we only have a certain amount of sounds that we can create with this articulatory system. But with those sounds, we've created over 150 languages, probably more, well, definitely more. We've created so many languages over our human existence. So people are able to communicate through the shaping of sound, which is articulation. And that uses all of the components which I already spoke about: lips, teeth, tip of the tongue, soft palate, and the back of the tongue. So this is the main thing when it comes to speaking. Shaping of the thoughts. The breath is the main thing of bringing in the thoughts and how we drop the breath into the resonance and then push it through the resonators to get through the articulators. And then this creates words. And that's where the magic happens. When the words come out the other end, that's where the magic happens. That's why they call it spelling, because words are magic. We cast spells with our words. And the quality of the resonance behind articulation can have the impact of how those words sound. So, for example, this video is not for kids, but if I call you a cunt in the form of, hey, how you going, cunt? You're all right? And you articulate that with a good thought of happiness and it comes out the other side, that word is a happy word. Whereas if I say it with the quality of not very nice, you're a cunt, it hits differently. It's the same word, but it's the way in which we say it. It's the thought, resonant articulation, giving it out there. And I'll do that in another video. So thank you for watching. So that is the foundations and the fundamentals of the voice. If you have any questions, please comment below. If you do have any questions that you'd like to ask me directly, there's also a link there to book a call with me if you want to have that call about what I'm talking about and work on the voice. And I will be doing more videos on the voice, how we use it. Like I just said, I want to go more into articulation and how we turn sound and words into magic so we can get the things we want in life by putting it out there. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And this video is for you guys, so I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.